Peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? So I didn't really know how exactly to do this. This is going to be slightly different. I kind of wanted to talk about something that's been going on with me because I think it would be encouraging to others. So my year started out with a bang. I've been employed since I want to say consecutively since I was 17 years old. Just consecutively, never without a job. Got saved right before I turned 20. I want to say I was 19, few months before I turned 20. Anyway, this year rolls around. January 3rd, I come into work, just like any other work day. Already worked one day into the year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look it up, because it's funny how things happen so quickly and roll so rapidly you can almost forget what day was what. Yeah, so the second was on a Tuesday, the third was on a Wednesday. So I roll into work. So one of my good friends that works where I did work as well, he comes to me, and I can tell by the look on his face, I already knew what was happening. I was like, oh man, third day of the year, this year's starting out with a bang. So I grabbed all my stuff. I knew what was happening. I was getting laid off. First time in my entire life I've ever gotten laid off. It wasn't due to, work ethic or anything like that. It's a bunch of us that got laid off at the same time. It's kind of crazy. But you know what? All of the things that I talk about on my podcast, all of the Bible reading I do, all of the things that I mention about faith and trust in God, I can say that this is one of the times in my life where I said, you know what, Lord, I'm all in. I'm not worried about this. I'm not going to worry about this. It was so much so that my boy, works with me. He was a program manager there. He said people were asking him about me because I seemed happy. They were like, yo, is he okay? Like, is everything all right? Now, when I tell you that God worked things out in a special way, that is an understatement. This was a full on, how can I put it, display of God's mercy and his provision. So I walk out of the plant, the shop that day, and I said, you know what, Lord, I'm not going to worry about this. You are in control. I'm not going to stress out. I'm going to take this time thanking you for everything you've done for me. I pull out the parking lot. One of the engineers that got laid off with me, before I even get not even a quarter mile away from the job, unbeknownst to me, he had already started working on the side for this other company. Well, he had been looking to, I guess at some point, I don't know when, just go with that company full time. He was trying to juggle both. I don't know if he had plans on juggling both jobs. But anyway, this other place happened to be looking for people. He calls me. This is not, I'm telling you, I just got laid off. I've been laid off for 3 minutes. He calls me. Hey, I might have something. I don't know if you're interested. So we talked about it for a little bit. I was like, sure, absolutely. I sent him my resume. He recommended me to his boss at this new place. Now I'm going to tell you, outside of his recommendation, I probably would have never applied for this job. Some of the requirements they have, I would have looked at and said, I think I could do this, but these requirements I don't have, so I'm not gonna bother. Sometimes I do. I apply anyway, but this was one of those positions where I'd have just been like, yeah, not so much. That was Wednesday. Friday, I get an email letting me know from this company that I was recommended for the position. The next week, I get a call. The next day, after that, so I get that call, or I get an email, then I get a call to set up an interview. The next day I do an interview. The day after my interviewer calls me back, who's now my boss, and is like, hey, we had a guy, the situation happened. We need somebody right now. Would this shift work for you? Absolutely. This is what I'm telling you. When I tell you God's provision is mind-blowing, I did not even have to apply for this job. There was nothing I had to do, no extra steps. God literally placed this job on my lap. It made me think about a verse, casting all your care upon him because he cares for you. Makes me think about what he said about the fowls of the air. They're provided for. Am I not better than the fowls of the air? The birds that fly around? They're clothed, they're fed, they have enough to drink. These are the things that I was thinking the moment I got laid off. I'm telling you, this is one of the few times in my life as a believer that I was 100% am committed. God, I trust you. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know one thing. In the Psalms, David was speaking, and he said, I've been young and I've been old. Never have I seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Now, that doesn't mean, obviously, that I'm going to get everything I want. But I'm here to tell you, God has met every single solitary one of my needs in this time. Like this, most people, you get laid off in the beginning of the year. That's a gut punch. This is like not end of the world, but it could really take you out. It had the opposite effect. I have never, well, I'm not going to say never, but this is one of the times where I have been encouraged beyond measure. The way in which God worked this out, the speed at which God worked this out. And I'm going to tell you, I think a large part of this is due to the fact that early on into this, like right out the gate, I determined, you know what? I am not going to worry about this at all. Like immediate, that was my immediate thought. I said, Lord, I've been saved long enough and I've seen you work enough that to worry about this would be a slight to you. Whatever you're going to work, I'm good with it. I'm excited to see what happens next. And it wasn't just lip service. I was and am genuinely excited to see what God has next. And the way that he's worked thus far has been so incredibly, I can't even put it into words. Like, I'm serious. I cannot put it into words. It's like if somebody had told me this story, I would not believe it. I'm living in the middle of this thing. It happened to me. This is how mind-blowing this has been. God's provision, it really is. I mean, what can I say? God takes care of his people. You can trust God. The Bible says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Now, again, I will reiterate, clearly this doesn't mean I'll get everything I want. But man, I'm here to tell you, doubting whether God will meet my needs, I'm not going to say I'll never doubt again, but I will say that God has strengthened me in a way that my faith toward that end is a lot stronger than it would have been years ago. This has been the experience of all experiences in my life as far as God's work and the things that he has done for me. It's been great. I just wanted to share that. Hopefully this encourages you. And if you go through anything this year, whatever you're going through, if you happen to go through something, hopefully this might help you just a little bit, might give you that little glimmer of hope. Like, just trust God. Just trust God. Just determine in your heart, no matter what happens, I'm not going to let this get me down. Anyway, that's all I got. Y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.